of the evening, so Dan and Paul are coming forward with matching blue shirts.
Good evening and go Cardinals.
Yes.
Dan and I are supporting the Blues. We're wearing blue tonight. So,
Tom, when you say
well, yeah, that's true.
Tom.
So anyway, we wanted to spend a few minutes to kind of go over our tax rate calculation for this year. It's going to be some great news. The fact that the economic conditions are favorable gives us a favorable spotlight on our tax rate scenario. Also, on a side note, when I first met Dr. Miles, he was wearing a Boston Tea Party shirt, and he said, no new taxes, so I've taken that into consideration. So under his direction is why we're going to hear some of this favorable information this evening.
Trying to be efficient and effective with taxpayer resources.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So just to kind of get started, why is it necessary to adjust the tax rate? Each year, the state auditor provides the forms and guidance for us to complete the tax rate calculation. We have to do this by October 1st of each year, so after this evening, the board approves the tax rates. Dan and I will take this information to the county collector and have it recorded, and then it's sent on to the state auditor's office. But in a nutshell, if assessed valuations go up by more than the CPI or 5%, whichever is less, in last several years, the CPI, which is a consumer price index, has been in around the 2% range. We haven't seen a 5% increase in quite some time. So we're limited by the CPI this year, which was about 1.9%. So that being said, AV went up by almost 10%. We can only capture 1.9% of that, less new construction and personal property, which we get to capture as well. So that's kind of the scenario that we're in this year is that top green line. In other years when the CPI is between zero or assessed valuation is between zero and the CPI, has very little effect on our tax rates. And then in years in 08, 09, et cetera, when the economy was going south and property values were going down, the calculation allows us to at least keep the revenue that we had the year before, which in effect would push tax rates up. That's not the case, of course, as I mentioned. We're in the case to where assessed valuations are going up, and it's forcing tax rates down. To get on to the second part of our tax rate calculation deals basically with recoupment, and recoupment happens when property values, we base our information based on Board of Equalization final numbers that are usually presented to us in mid-September. We use that to calculate our tax rates, and then we submit it by October 1st, as I mentioned earlier. But there are times when there are tax settlements after we set our tax rate. And one example this year, and you may have read in the newspaper, is that there was a large number of appeals and they were having a hard time getting to them by the deadline. And in our conversations with the assessor's office, they got to the majority of the commercial properties, but there was 10 to 15% of residential real estate that they didn't get to hear. So it's quite possible that we'll have some adjustments after we set that. That being said, if there are some adjustments in AV, that will allow us for us to do a recoupment next year to recover those dollars that may have been lost through that process. The other part of that is individuals that appeal to BOE and BOE makes their determination, and they don't like that, they can go to the State Tax Commission, and that happens often. Those appeals usually take longer and can span over a period of several years, so it's quite possible that we get settlements well into the year that go back to maybe 2014, 15, or whatever, and that's also part of the recoupment process. We'll figure that in the next year's calculation if those things come to pass.
There's no time limit on how far back you can go, or?
Well, we've seen some go back almost as far as 10 years in the last couple of years. Now, the State Tax Commission has really picked up the pace as far as hearing these settlements, so the time frame has been shorter the last couple of years, but maybe 4 years ago we were seeing appeals that went back. It wasn't uncommon to see appeals 7 or 8 years old. So
if they appeal it from 8 years ago, do they clean it all the way up to this year? They don't just say, well, 8, now we'll go again 7, 6? They clean them all up at once?
Yes. So,
Okay.
and that goes back to our recoupment process. So we would have to recoup for that year's settlement and then bring it forward. How does recoupment work? Basically, the county provides us a list of properties where the assessed valuation is changed, and Dan works through that on a regular basis, and we get those and update them. And again, as I mentioned earlier, those protests can span several years. There's a state auditor's form that allows us to calculate the recoupment, and typically when we do a recoupment, and the district does a recoupment every year, that recoupment is spread out over 3 years. So, and you'll see that later when Dan gets into the numbers where you can see there's a 3-year span of recoupment. Who developed the tax rate calculation forms and what oversight? And the short answer to that is the state auditor's office really dictates the whole process. They provide the forms. The tax rate must meet their approval. Once we do a preliminary calculation, Dan does, sends it to the state auditor's office for preview. So they have already seen our recoupment forms and our preliminary numbers that we're talking about this evening. When the board approves the tax rates this evening, we'll take it to the county for their recording, and then they forward it on to the state auditor, and the state auditor will then issue a certification letter assuming that the calculations, they're in agreement with them. If they are not by chance, then they will notify us and we'll have to adjust accordingly. That typically doesn't happen, though. And then what factors impacted the 2019 tax rate? I'll let Dan speak to some of the things that we saw this year.
2019 was a reassessment year, so as Paul mentioned, we had a really healthy increase in our assessed valuation, 9.4% over the prior year. That's about $354 million that our AV increased, so we actually exceeded $4 billion for the first time. Of that $354 million, we saw residential increase $247 million. Commercial was about $82 million, and then our personal property from local businesses as well as residential increased $25 million. So $4.1 billion is what our assessed valuation will be, or tax rate will be based on, and then included in that is about $45 million of new construction. So the largest piece being residential. We had about $29 million of new residential assessed valuation come on board, with the majority of that being in the Eureka and Chesterfield area, which is consistent with what we've been seeing with the developments that's been going on in the area.
Where was that at in Chesterfield? Off of Wild Horse?
Yes, off Wild Horse, and then also in the Kerrs Mill area, we had some off Strecker. There's some
Gotcha.
couple of developments down there. As part of the recoupment, we did have $30 million in settlements for this year, so that was part of our recoupment calculation. It's a large dollar amount, but from a tax rate standpoint, that added about 1.8 pennies to the recoupment calculation. Compared to last year, on our first year of the recoupment, where we take it in 3 installments, last year we added 5 cents. So that kind of goes to the point where the backlog of cases, it was relatively short period where we were only impacting 2 or 3 years of tax rates. Where in the prior year, when we set the tax rate last year, cases went back all the way to 2007. So we had almost 10 years of tax rates that we had to kind of recalculate all the way through. So that was the recoupment piece. That $30 million was about $2.8 million. So we're going to be spreading that again over 3 years, which is a little bit over $800,000 a year that we'll be recouping. And then for 2019, a couple things that we've been, for the last couple of years, we've been monitoring the collection rate. So when we established the budget, Rockwood has historically hit the 97.5% collection rate. So when we assess taxes, we figure we will collect 97.5% of that. But the last couple of years, we've been trending right around 97%. So in planning going into this year, we were kind of looking to see where we ended up for June 30, 19. So we did end up at the 97.5%. So we are going to adjust our budget forecast going forward based off of this information. So we'll be budgeting at 97%, which basically just allows us to plan for any kind of unexpected uncollected amounts at the end of the year. Just allows us to more appropriately budget our revenue.
How does our collection rate compare with other districts, do you know?
I think we're right. Putting it 97% is going to be, at least, and also knowing what's happened with the county the last couple of years with the settlements, we're going to be on target. I believe Parkway is at the 97% as well, and they've been historically been doing that for a number of years.
Are those two of the higher percentages in the area, or do you know? I mean, are there some
I don't know.
districts higher than us collection rates?
It's a
Some-
pretty typical percentage that you're going to see across St. Louis County. It doesn't vary much from that 97, 96 and a half up to maybe 98 at the most, but that most school districts are in that range in this area.
Good.
With the increase in the assessed valuation, that's continued good news with our plan for the future, where we're able to kind of talk about our debt service plan. So
So I think now would be a good time to kind of revisit this document that, and this plan that was put into place just prior to, I believe, the 17 bond issue, to where we're planning for the future and really talking about transitioning from a debt service levy and getting into more of a capital projects to fund our cycle maintenance. And if you look at this document, again, just kind of serve as a refresher, under that first tab, it's a dedicated funding source for school maintenance. So what we're really looking to is transitioning from debt service to a capital projects levy to fund our cycle maintenance type items. For example, roofing, flooring, parking lots, those things, and put them in where they're funded through a building fund as opposed to debt service fund. And if you really scroll down a little bit and look at the timeline, initially when this was put into place, the discussion was that we'd be able to make this transition in two stages, in the 25-26 school year and 26-27. And we'd be lowering the debt service levy from 68 cents down to 14, taking those 54 cents, asking for voters to approve the 54 cents to be moved over into operations and be placed in our capital projects fund. And it would be overall no tax increase. It's just a matter of shifting the funds from one source to the other. Given the fact that we've had some positive economic conditions over the past few years, we think over the next couple of months, Dan and I will be working with our financial advisors, et cetera, and we think we can move up this timeline up a couple of years and maybe start this process at least 2 years earlier, which I think would be a positive for the district. Excuse me? We're looking at it, it's going to be somewhere in the 2 to 3 year time frame, I believe. And I think instead of phasing in over 2 years, we're going to look at maybe bringing it in a little earlier and maybe do the phase in over 4, and those increments will be a little bit smaller. But we're still working on the finer details, and we'll be coming back with some discussion on that later.
Do the patrons have to vote on that?
Yes, because we're going to be asking for an operating increase, taking the debt service levy down, but it's got to be moved into operating, so it will require voter approval, and then we'll have to have some information out there to let the community know what our plans are.
If they vote no, thinking it's a tax increase or whatever, does it stay as it is, or does we lose that 54% period?
No, we'll go to the voters first before we can do any transition. So it'll be something that we'll bring before the voters, ask for their permission. And though 54 cents will strictly be dedicated and stay in the building fund, just like it stayed in the debt service fund. And our debt service fund, instead of being at 68 cents, will hold constant at 14.
If they voted down, it'll stay at 68 cents then, right?
Excuse me?
If they voted down, say, no, we don't want to do that.
Yeah. If they vote it down, then we'll just leave the funds in debt
That's what I meant,
service.
okay.
Yeah. So it's not that we lose it. It's that we just lose the ability to get away from debt.
Good.
And to your point, the benefits of doing this, if we can get it into a building fund, is that we can really do some good planning, 5-10 year planning, know that we have those funds secured, and it'll really help us in the planning of doing some of our cycle maintenance. And the other part of it is we reduce borrowing costs, because we're no longer borrowing now. We have those funds in place. So not in this setting, no. No, this is kind of a one-time thing. And we're fortunate that we're in a position that I think we can do that, because oftentimes, or most times, I don't think as a school district you have the ability to do that. The fact that we have a good solid assessed valuation base allows us to look at this and be comfortable with it. It definitely will, yes. Yep.
No,
Would understand.
And we've had this information out on our website for quite some time, so now it's time to re-educate, but also update this information based on what we talked about this evening. I think it's more of a positive message at this point that we can do it sooner.
you know of any district that has done this before in the St. Louis area?
No, I've not been part of that, no.
Is there any district that has no debt service fund at all?
There's a lot of districts that use primarily capital project funding in lieu of debt service. There's some school districts that don't like going the debt service route, and they may fund their projects through capital leasing in lieu of general obligation bonds. So there's some different mindsets out there.
Well, those would be districts that aren't gaining a large population of students, they're not having to build, or just
It could be any
anything?
type of
Okay.
framework, yeah. So, that concludes my part. I'll turn it back over to Dan so he can give you some more figures.
So just for a quick summary of the tax rate. So for for the 2020 budget year, the 2019 tax rate, we have a tax rate ceiling of 3.5487. So that's a decrease over the prior year of 3.7109. We are maintaining that debt service of 68 cents, and again, that's a calculation based off of our debt structure. So we typically have rolled that number back down, and we're committed to no higher than 68 cents. So the way our debt is structured for the next couple of years, that will maintain there. Recoupment, you can see it dropped about 5 pennies from last year's recoupment of 16 cents to this year of 11 cents. So overall, our tax rate is decreasing 20 cents from 4.5539 to 4.3463. That's about a 5% decrease in our tax rate. So from a homeowner with a value of $250,000, they'll comparing the tax rates year over year, they'll save about $100 if the average market value remained at $250,000.
What size home was that? What size home was that?
Size home, I'm not sure. It was a market value of $250,000.
Okay. That's what you based that on, that
Yeah.
100, okay.
Correct, yeah. So from a operational standpoint, with the new assessment and tax rate, we're able to pick up just under $500,000 in operating revenue. So then that is reflective of the 97% collection rate. So we've adjusted that, so that's what that number is related to. In year over year, $4.2 million in revenue. This is just a quick summary, just from a number standpoint. It's just interesting looking at this. In the last 7 years, we've increased our assessed valuation has increased just under $1 billion, or 29% in the last 7 years. So it's quite an indication of the local economy and the rebound that we've gone through the last number of years. And then our tax rates also has decreased almost less than 30 cents over the last 7 years. So this is our recommended tax rate for 2019. It's 4.3463, and then we levy it based off of our cash needs in each of the different funds. I believe that's all the information we have. I'm happy to take questions.
The hits on that are at the incidental and the capital, is that right?
Incidental and the teachers fund.
Oh, teachers fund
Correct,
too, yeah.
So our operational piece of it. A lot of our capital is being funded through bond issue right now, so that's not a component of the tax rate.
Again, to put that in perspective, what we talked about earlier, if we make that transition, where you see debt service at 68, when this is fully implemented, assuming voter approval, that would go down to 14 cents, and the capital would be adjusted up to reflect that change. So we go from debt service to capital. Any questions?
It's good.
Thank you.
Great job, guys.
All right, so we're going to call the meeting to order. We're a few minutes late, but that was a good presentation. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
Moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Next, I need a motion to adopt the following tax rate levy for the 2019-20 school year. If after validation by the Missouri State Auditor, the tax rate ceiling allowed is less than or greater than the approved rate, the superintendent is hereby authorized to set the final rate for the district as validated by the State of Missouri Auditor.
Move.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. Next, I need a motion to go into closed session to discuss legal actions, causes of action, or litigation, and personnel.
Move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Bays? Yes. Mr. Dunn?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Kinder?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Midyett? Mrs. Mondel?
Yes.
The motion carries.
We're going to start by, I need a motion to approve the Board of Education meeting minutes for September 5th, 2019.
Moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. We do not have any patron comments, so we move on to 8.01, Superintendent and Board comments. So we're going to start with our Superintendent, Dr. Mark Miles.
Thank you very much. So first up tonight, in announcements, more than 90 Rockwood anti-bullying ambassadors from all 6 middle schools gathered for a day of leadership for training collaboration on September 23rd. Their message is simple: recognize bullying, stop it, and describe it. During the training, students learn the language and skills to become ambassadors, and their next step is to raise awareness in all of Rockwood schools to gain support, help spread the word. Thanks to all the students, teachers, and administrators who took part in this program. You can see the large group that took part in that day to become anti-bullying ambassadors. So thanks for their efforts. We look forward to ending bullying anywhere. Rockwood High School students were invited to meet with more than 140 colleges and universities at the Rockwood Parkway College Fair at Queenie Park in Baldwin on September 16th. I had an opportunity to stop by briefly, and what an amazing collection of sponsors, university representatives. Great opportunity for our students to gather information. Todd Minicello, our coordinator of K-12 guidance and counseling, estimated that we had around 1,500 total students, parents, and college representatives attend the event. We presented that with the Parkway School District for the past 4 years, so another collaborative relationship, cooperative relationship between Parkway and Rockwood over the past 4 years. This year's fair was the biggest one yet, providing students with relevant information about the college selection process and the opportunity to interact with admission staff from local colleges and universities, as well as those from around the country. So we look forward to year 5 next year. I've been very impressed with the number of opportunities to collaborate with the Parkway School District. We're often competitors on the court and on the field, but in the classroom and in the learning adventure, we are very much partners. A group of geometry and construction students at our Individualized Learning Center partnered with the Eureka Chamber of Commerce to lend a hand in a fun annual tradition. This is my first this year, the Eureka Scarecrow Festival. Students made bases for the scarecrows using their knowledge of units of measurement and conversion charts, as well as putting their hands-on skills to work with hammers, chop saws, circular saws, and drills to cut and modify plywood into 15 bases for use around the city. So when you're out and about in Eureka and see the scarecrows standing tall, know that our Rockwood students pitched in to provide the foundation for this event. A great project. And I've seen a few scarecrows already.
It's over by Verizon, isn't there one right there?
They were putting some, yep.
Or the old pie shop?
I believe the Administrative Center has a scarecrow for the first time in many years, so I'm anxious to see our theme. Unveiling tomorrow. I think there's an official ceremony.
Does it look like you, Mark?
I don't know yet. That's what I'm afraid of. We'll find out soon. I've also had the pleasure of hosting 3 Meet Mark question and answer sessions with community members over the past few weeks. We had one here at the Administrative Annex, one at Rockwood Summit, and one at Marquette. We've discussed various topics from homework to the upcoming school calendar and a very rigorous conversation about snow days. There's a lot of curiosity about my perspectives on snow days. I've also enjoyed just sitting down with district patrons to gather their expectations of me as a superintendent and to gather their hopes for the future of the Rockwood School District. We have one final meeting on October 1st at 7 p.m. at the Lafayette High School Library. Of course, that is not the only chance to meet me. I'll be out and about at a variety of athletic events throughout the year, performing arts events, in classrooms, etc., the grocery store, wherever the case may be. I'm happy to meet and interact with our district patrons.
Forget homecoming parades you'll be in.
Yeah, I'll be in the Rockwood Summit homecoming
Oh, yeah,
parade.
okay, good.
Dr. Kinder, are you?
Stop.
Sorry.
No,
I'll
I'm
continue.
going to pass this year. I can't drive this year, so I'm
I'm
not
sorry
going.
to hear that. I'm sorry. It's always next year,
All right,
Dr. Kinder.
next.
Finally, in celebration of National Arts and Education Week earlier this month, I had the opportunity to drop in on the strings class at Babbler Elementary School and see how adding music into the daily routine of students helps supplement and enhance the rest of their educational experience. And I had a lot to learn about playing the violin. So let's watch.
Did you try to play it like this?
I have to tune your instrument first. Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm not sure that's going to make much difference. I'll let the fifth graders teach me.
Hello, Rockwood School District community. It's Mark Miles once again, out and about in Rockwood. It's National Arts and Education Week, and in celebration, we are here at Babbler Elementary School visiting the classroom of Mr. Chris Livesay, strings teacher. He also teaches at Green Pines Elementary. Let's go in and check it out.
Hey, did I sing the same note or did I switch notes? Switch. I switched. What did I go to, Kaylee? I went to A. Good ears.
Tell me a little bit about why exposure to music is so important for our children.
Music is a unique opportunity for students in that it allows them to be exposed to things they wouldn't get in an ordinary classroom. The academic side of things in Rockwood is fantastic and they do a great job, but we also provide students with a unique opportunity to all play violin in third grade.
So how has music impacted your life?
I'm a public school music product. I started in 5th grade is when my school district started, and I went to the recruiting session, saw a teacher of mine play Pop Goes the Weasel on the bass, and I was hooked. So to me, public school music education is why I'm here, and that's why it's important for me to get back to it.
So you mentioned 3rd grade. Is that the earliest that a Rockwood student would be exposed to strings?
Yes, so in 3rd grade, we own enough instruments for every Rockwood 3rd grader to play the violin. So they get twice a week, 30 minutes of instruction. We teach them how to hold it, how to use the bow, how to play as many songs as possible and culminates in a performance.
E, D, 4 times go. Can you sit down in rest position, please?
I'm here with Kelly Archambault at Babbler Elementary School, who in my estimation is an expert on the violin. I was able to practice a few minutes ago. I can tell it takes a lot of practice. Why is music so important to you?
I really like music because sometimes I like just playing. I like making pieces myself so that I can like experiment to see what other music I can make, and I want to see other people smile and listen to my music.
Excellent. Do you ever make mistakes?
Oh, plenty of mistakes.
What happens when you make mistakes?
Sometimes, either if I'm practicing and sometimes I start over, or you just, if in class you make a mistake, you kind of just continue going and try to find your place again.
Always trying to do your best. Do you learn from your mistakes?
Definitely, yeah.
What would you say to younger students who are thinking about learning to play a musical instrument?
Well, I would say that it's like soothing for you, and you can like play songs, and sometimes you can even make your own songs.
Tell me a little bit about the growth that you see from the very beginning to the end of the school year for a 3rd grade student.
So we start with, some of them I have to help them open the case. They don't know how to manipulate the latches to actually get the case open to the end. They'll be playing songs that you recognize. Some of them are your traditional folk tunes, Twinkle, and other things. And I try to integrate some pop music and things that they listen to on their own time to make it more relevant to them.
The arts are also a really great pathway for developing cultural competency. This is something that we want for all of our students to understand themselves, to know themselves and their identity, but also to understand and appreciate the variety and diversity of people who are around them. And the arts really give a good opportunity for students to develop that.
2, 1, 2, ready, go. I need you to pack up and line up under the flag.
They're good.
That's all I have this evening.
Very good. I like those.
I love them.
Board comments.
4 of us, or 5 of us, had the opportunity last week. We went to the secondary, I call it the data session, but it's amazing the data that the central office personnel have collected and given to the administrators in the schools this year. That was unheard of when I was principal. Now you give them so much data that almost overwhelms them with the data. But they did a good job of looking at it and seeing how they're going to use it. I didn't go to the elementary one, but I assume it was very similar to that. Those are really neat. You do those once a month. That's great.
And Jamie and I, we attended the anti-bullying training on Tuesday, and it was amazing. It was just, the kids just embraced the work and the leadership. Terry and did a super job. So it was a good afternoon.
Else? All right. Moving along, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Dr. Kinder.
Donations. Good thing I got this tonight. We have from 5 different areas, from Babber PTO, other non-monetary, $2,838.91 to provide water filling stations for students. Purchase of Halsey Taylor Hydro Boost water bottle filling station and single ADA non-filter cooler. I need a drink after that one, of water. Babber PTO, $14,740 to provide protection and relief from the sun for our students and staff. Galvanized post and polyfab shade cloth that will provide will protect students from the sun. Where's that going to be at? Does anybody know? Is that out on the playground? I'm assuming it is. Nobody knows? Okay. Green Pines PTO Technology, $2,700. It's a surplus in the PTO budget. I like to hear that. To purchase a Lexmark MX421 ADE multiplication printer, and it talks about the cost of those. Donation for Rockwood South Middle, Christy and Jeffrey Lewis, monetary, $1,000. This is really a neat one. Food pantries support cafe meals for students. Cash donation to the Food Resource Pantry activity budget to support lunch account meals for students in need. Rockwood Summit High School, monetary. Once again, the Falcon football boosters, $1,437.50. Donation to purchase a hydration system. And the last one is Rockwood Valley Middle, monetary, anonymous, $3,000 to purchase microphones and heat sets. Is that heat sets or headsets? Huh? Headsets. To help theater, arts, drama to pay for purchasing microphones and headsets. Thanks for the donations. They just keep coming in. We appreciate that.
Else? All right. Do we gonna say something?
I just need to abstain from 9.13.
Okay. So the motion is to approve the consent agenda items as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I did have one other thing. Can I mention it?
Yes.
Notice up here tonight on the board, 5 of us are wearing our Cardinals stuff, our red. We tried to get the 6th one too, but since he's a Cub fan, he can't do that. We're enjoying the heck out of it.
So, do you need to abstain from something?
I will just abstain from 9.13, please.
And I can't remember, did I already call for a vote?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Kinder, come on.
Sorry.
All right. All right, next, we need a motion to continue to recognize the month of October as Disability and History Awareness Month as outlined in Missouri House Bill 555.
So move.
We have a motion and a second. So coming forward, we have Dr. Jamie Smith, Dr. Carmen Harris, and Dave Cobb. I know, but your name's not even on there. I know you're Dr. Dave Cobb. So first of all, I think Director Miller is going to read the proclamation.
Resolution designating the month of October of every year as Disability History and Awareness Month, and encouraging our schools to provide instruction on disability history, people with disabilities, and the disability rights movement. Whereas there are approximately 129,000 students with disabilities educated by Missouri Public Schools, and whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 is founded on 4 principles: inclusion, full participation, economic self-sufficiency, and equality of opportunity for all people with disabilities. And whereas a key method of promoting these 4 principles is for our schools to recognize the contributions by people with disabilities to our society and provide instruction in disability history, people with disabilities, and the disability rights movement through school curriculum, school assemblies, and other school activities. And now therefore be it resolved by the School Board of the Rockwood School District that the Board urges our schools to provide intensive instruction on disability history, people with disabilities, and the disability rights movement, especially during the month of October and periodically throughout the school year, and encourages other institutions to conduct and promote educational activities on those subjects.
Well done.
Just here to thank you for reading that, and we're here to talk about the celebration of October. We've talked with communications, and there's a lot of things going on in our schools that we're going to highlight and do stories on so we can promote that awareness, because while it's not just October, it's every single day that we support all kids. We want to make sure that we highlight the wonderful things that we're doing all across of our schools for disability awareness. So we're here to answer questions, but really just to highlight the fact that we've got a lot of great things happening in October that we're ready to celebrate.
Talk to us, ladies, about how things are going.
Things are going well. The partnership is very strong. We'll be back next week to talk a little bit more about students and the work that we're doing. The communications department is doing an amazing job of pulling some key stories together that'll be featured on the website in the month of October, highlight some professional development, some school activities that are focused on ability awareness, and some other key stories that I think your team has pulled forward for us.
Specific.
Do know that as I travel around, I do know that Rockwood is the lighthouse for working with students with disability, not only in the St. Louis area, but in at least the state. And you guys would know more about nationwide, but that's quite an accomplishment, and that's thanks to everything you do that we have become that lighthouse. We're the group, and I'm counting myself into the Rockwood School District. We're the group where everybody goes when they have situations they want to know how to deal with them or how to improve their programs. That's where we want to be.
How many special education teachers work in Rockwood?
500 professionals to teach best use of. Else?
Thank you for.
Thank you all.
All right, so the motion is to continue to recognize the month of October as Disability and History Awareness Month, as outlined in Missouri House Bill 555. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. All right, next we have a Parents as Teachers and Screening Program update. So Dr. Suzanne Fossage, Stephanie Kane, and Cindy Lewis. Welcome. And Dr. Dave Cobb. Look at you again.
I'll just start in before this wonderful team talks about Parents as Teachers. I had the ability or the opportunity to walk through the new Eureka Early Childhood Center. Mr. Miller was with me, and had the opportunity to talk to Stephanie Kane about parents, teachers. What I thought would be a 5-minute conversation, I think was about a 45-minute conversation, because my jaw was on the ground about the things that we do for our families, for parents as teachers. It was amazing. I couldn't stop asking questions, and so I love the opportunity to learn, and I know that this team does a fantastic job supporting those families. So they've put together something here to highlight their program. So.
All right, well, thank you very much, Dr. Cobb, for the introduction. Cindy and I are here this year just to give you an update on our program. We'll see if technology cooperates. So just as a quick reminder, these are the 4 components of our program. And through these 4 components, we are striving to achieve 4 different goals. So to increase parent knowledge, to prevent child abuse and neglect, to provide early detection of delays, and to increase school readiness. Each year we give our families a parent satisfaction survey, and you can see by the yellow and teal that our parents are extremely satisfied with our program. Some comments that we hear for program improvement are wanting to increase the number of visits and visits beyond the age of 3. So in the state of Missouri, PAT is a partnership between National Center, DESE, and the local school district, Rockwood. And in the spring last year, I received this chart, and it shows the designations for Parents as Teachers programs here in Missouri. If you were to follow all of the guidelines from DESE, then we would be meeting 9 of the 20 requirements that come down from National Center. And those are programs that do that are designated as Missouri PAT programs in that far column. Programs that are surpassing those 9 essential requirements are working towards affiliation. And there are 3 levels of affiliation: provisional, model, and blue ribbon. Rockwood currently falls in the provisional category for affiliation. We are meeting 16 of the 20 essential requirements. Last year at this time, we were meeting 15, and so a major program change that we have made for this year is to increase the number of visits for our families offering monthly home visits, and then also for those families who have a stressor beyond the age of 3, continuing to see those families. We are creating a wait list for families beyond the age of 3 who would like to continue in our program, and the reason for that wait list is Parents as Teachers at the state level received an increase of $3 million in funding this year, and the reason for that is because other districts provided that wait list. And we hadn't been maintaining one, even though our families wanted to continue beyond age 3. We received, as a district PAT program, nearly $50,000 increase in our allocation for parent education or home visiting for this school year. That's what's allowing us to increase the number of visits for families and to continue beyond the age of 3. It's really exciting because that helps us move closer to the model designation, and it's what our parents, per that parent satisfaction survey, are asking from us. Just a real quick chart to show you that we have had a steady increase in the number of home visits over the past 3 years. Last year we increased 8.7% and hope to do so again this year. Just a couple pictures from some of our home visits. One of the questions on our parent satisfaction survey asks parents, what do you find to be most valuable and helpful about our program? And so I wanted to share a quick quote with you. Having my parent educator come to our house and see our surroundings and how my daughter and I interact with each other really makes me feel like I'm doing something right by her comments. It's hard being a single mother, and she, as an outsider, makes me feel so much better about my relationships with my daughter. Another parent said, my parent educator has been an invaluable resource. When my son was having difficulty socializing with other children, she gave us great advice and strategies for how to handle his less than desirable behaviors.
Screening is under the PAT umbrella. DESE considers full service marrying the developmental component with health, hearing, and vision. We offer 3 types of screening: health, hearing, and vision from 3 months to 3 years of age, developmental screening from 3 years to pre-K, and our kindergarten screening for incoming 5-year-olds. As you can see from the chart, we did over 1,000 health, hearing, and vision screenings last year. In regards to developmental screening, we screened over 1,200 3- and 4-year-olds, 918 kindergarten eligible students, and we screened all of our incoming kindergarten students who participate in the voluntary transfer program. The screening team also travels throughout the district in our 3-center model, Chesterfield, Eureka, and Fenton. This year they'll spend approximately 30 days between now and January visiting our preschool partners that we have in the community, offering 3-4 developmental screening. As Stephanie mentioned, we're so appreciative of the fact that we can share our data, but it's really the core of PAT and the heart that we'd like to share, those connections that we'd like to highlight. So I'd like to share one of our stories, as Katie doesn't cry now. Mom expressed, "I was feeling great about coming into the center for screening. Your team's always wonderful. On this particular day, my son did not pass the hearing portion of the screening. The RN called me into the suite and reviewed the results. She was professional and gentle, but firm in her suggestion to follow up with a medical professional. She referred me to SSD audiology as a possible first step." Mom continued, "To be honest, I really hadn't heard the message from that nurse. Our son had always been our golden boy. He had met or exceeded all of his developmental milestones." I'm gonna go second. "I was convinced, in my own mind at least, that this information couldn't be accurate. A few weeks later, it hit me I had not followed up with SSD audiology. I made the appointment, we followed up, and he failed miserably. We were shocked." Mom went on to continue to say they have followed up with an ENT, the family has sought numerous professional opinions, and they are now considering a more invasive device to assist their child. Mom was emotional at the time and reiterated several times, "As difficult as this journey has been, we have not started on this path as early as we did if it had not been for the service. I can't thank Rockwood and the PAT program enough for the service and the emotional support they've given us as well." This is that passion piece. This is that intangible that we want to highlight tonight. And this is just another reason why PAT.
So in addition to providing home visits, group connections, and screenings to over 1,000 families annually, we have formed many partnerships. So each year, Cindy and I present to education students from Maryville University.
Through Partners in Education, we partner with the child development classes and do demonstration in all our high school locations.
Last year, I was asked to help write a child development unit for our middle school Life Skills 2 Facts classes at Wildwood Middle School. And this year, it was adopted into the curriculum and will be going into all 6 middle schools.
We offer some additional outreach programs for our Spanish-speaking families, including Read from the Start and Health, Hearing, and Vision screenings. In cooperation with Equity and Diversity, we hosted a summer event for our incoming kindergarten students participating in the voluntary transfer program. The goal was twofold. One was to develop those homeschool relationships, and the other was to reduce that summer slide by providing extended learning opportunities.
The last piece that we want to share with you tonight is the exciting news that we now, for the first time within Rockwood, have a designated space just for parents as teachers at the new Eureka Early Childhood Center. We are so excited about that space. Last week, we had our first group connection for infants and their parents. We've had our staff meetings there, and we will be collaborating with our advisory board to determine the best ways to utilize that space. That also aligns closely with one of our areas of growth, and our parents are wanting to connect with others in the program and in the district, and this will provide us that space to do that. We are just so excited about the space, and it will be an opportunity for families with children under the age of 5 to come learn, grow, and connect together. We know that in the Eureka area there is very little opportunity for that, and we hope it draws into people from across the district. This will be a showcase for the Parents as Teachers program, which is often their first introduction to the Rockwood School District. Thank you so much for your time, and what questions do you have for us?
Oh, we love our program. Want to tell you more?
Well, I don't have a question. I have a comment. Just as I was bragging about the group working with disabilities and them being a lighthouse, you guys have been a lighthouse for years. The Parents as Teachers, the early childhood centers, all of those, because I constantly hear people talking about early childhood and so forth, and they're saying, well, we just go to Rockwood and talk to them. That's another set of kudos for you guys. It's just amazing what you have developed in Rockwood in both of these programs. I like that you're pairing with Maryville on some things. That makes me feel good. But how many of the parents do you have a percentage of the parents you reach that you of 100%, how many, what, do you have a percentage that you reach, or do you even worry about that?
Well, I'm trying to market our program, but it's always spread through word of mouth. We have, last year we served 1,109 families. We'd have to look with the 2020 census data coming up. We could then maybe determine how many we are reaching, but I don't
think
know
you're doing a
for
pretty
fact.
good percentage compared to a lot of districts. I have students that are in other districts, and they're saying their parents as teachers in early childhood and diversity and all those different programs, disabilities, they're not reaching anywhere what they want to. I think Rockwood does a pretty good job compared to the rest of them.
Well, I think your point is well taken. Even when we go to the off-site preschools and we communicate with the directors and we're doing screenings and we have relationships and we refer them to home visits for PAT, they will say, well, you guys are the gold standard. Can we talk to your behavior analyst? Can we have you all come visit? Can you come show us some strategies with these kids? So we feel fortunate that the program is viewed in that way.
Remind them that we're not just the gold standard, we're the lighthouse, too.
Thank you. Yes.
And I would agree, being new to the district and being the director of the program and having these wonderful ladies, I just feel so fortunate. They do an amazing job, and partnering with them, they are the gold standard of what people look for, and I'm just extremely proud to have them on our team.
Final question. Your home visits, is there criteria that for a home visit, or is it open to everyone?
Great question. So the program here in Rockwood is open to all families under the age of 3, and if they have a stressor as designated by DESE, they can continue beyond the age of 3.
That is a little different than other districts, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and we can say part of that. So with our funding, Rockwood puts in a part that we are allowed to go and visit more families, where other districts are really confined by the funds that they have. So really, it's Rockwood supporting this additionally, that we're able to reach as many people that would like to participate in the program.
It is an amazing program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hub that's in Eureka is awesome. We did have a chance to go through that, and I know, the space allowed that to happen. Is there, kind of a hope? Would it be like a big dream that you could develop something similar?
A lot of dreams.
Right.
Time for that
I
one,
know.
but yes.
We're dreamers too, so I get it. But how amazing would it be to have that in other quadrants of our district, so that all of the families could be utilizing it? I know space is so tight in Fenton and in Clarkson Valley, but I utilized the program when we first moved back, and it was great. And if I'd have had a place to take my kiddo and meet other people, having moved back to the area, that would have been, icing on the cake. But
That will actually be discussion with our PAT advisory board, third week in October. Other ways we can utilize our space, what we're currently doing, and some just, brainstorming the other ways we can use it and reach out into the community as well, reach all our families.
Or library space. I don't know if that's a possibility for things.
Story times we do.
Yeah.
So we do have group connections that take place across the district during the day and in the evenings to accommodate all families, but not a permanent location. So.
Yeah. And how do you develop your partnerships with the other preschools? How do you?
It's really just going in, providing them information of what we do, what we can do for them. It's not just about we're going in.
Yeah.
I think the biggest obstacle is initially offsite preschools thinks we're coming in to recruit and take
Right.
their kids.
Yeah.
But we've developed these relationships, and they know we're there to support their children, whether they're going to our school or parochial school or something. So I think over time we've built that relationship, and it's kind of been word of mouth that we're really there to support all the kids, not competing with the facility itself.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next, hot topic. I need, there's more to this. A motion to postpone the approval of the revised 2021 and 21-22 school calendars and inclement weather makeup schedule until October 3, 2019 Board of Education meeting.
So move.
Second.
Motion is second, and we have a discussion, Dr. Rabelais and Dr. Edwards.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I will say, I know they're leaving, but amazing work that they do. My child was a benefactor of the early intervention screenings, and parents as teachers, it is amazing work for kids and gets them school ready. So good evening. We are here tonight, Tracy and I are here tonight to talk about the calendar. I'm sure you've heard a little bit about it. If you haven't heard, the law did change, and there are some there are some implications that impacted the Rockwood School District. As you guys know, we approved the 2021 calendar last year. We did have to revise it to meet the law. So you can see up there, I'm not going to read it to you, but you can see the law, what it says, that we cannot start school until 14 calendar days before the first Monday in September. And this is also the public hearing opportunity. So we're required by law to have public notice and at a public meeting present our start date, so that way the community has an opportunity to be heard and have feedback.
Not yet.
That's right now.
This is it. All right. This
Can we express our frustration with
This is your life. So this slide just basically reiterates that we have a committee composed of lots of great folks, and we always appreciate their time. So the website's there with all of our goodies, minutes, etc. We meet annually, as you know. This year was pushed up a little bit. We usually haven't even come together for the first meeting, much less already speaking to you all. Usually comes to the board in December, but because we had to revise it and we knew our community and our parents needed the start date and the end date for 2021 in their hands, that's why we're here tonight already in September. The committee's done their work. And then the last bullet just kind of basically highlights the laws and policies and different things. Some of them are based on policy, some law, and then some are based on our teacher agreement that we have. So like the parent-teacher conference comp day, that's embedded in our teacher agreement as to when that has to happen. So all those things factor into the calendar which we have to set up. So that's the committee.
Thank you. Thank you. So we considered, this was an opportunity, actually, we looked at it as an opportunity to consider a wide variety of topics regarding our calendar. These topics aren't the calendar committee's decision. The calendar committee doesn't decide how many minutes are in a school day or whether we should have half-day final exams. That's Rockwood leadership. So Rockwood leadership, with feedback from the community, did take a look at, some suggestions were add some minutes to the day, or, reduce or add to the number of days, or take minutes away from finals, or try to end school before Memorial Day. I want to remind you that the Rockwood School District traditionally, and I mean for 27 years, that's the length of time I've been in Rockwood, we've got 180 days for our calendar. So any reduction in those days would be pretty dramatic. As you guys remember, we did approve a 179-day calendar, the calendar that's already been approved that we have to revise. For 2021, it was 179 days in order to get a professional development day in the calendar. But all of those were considered. We took a look at them and are presenting to you the two calendars this evening.
Katie, we could do 176, is that right?
We speak in days, but we're only required to go 1044 hours, so days aren't required anymore.
Okay.
But yes, we could reduce, but that would definitely take away the Rockwood advantage. One of the reasons our achievement is so high is our robust curriculum, and we cover it in 79 days, or whatever it may be with inclement weather. So as you guys probably know, we did reach out to the community on this topic of professional learning and how we should deliver it. For years, we've had the model of half-day professional learning. The reason for that is because the law required 1044 hours and 174 days. The 174-day requirement isn't a requirement anymore. So we really could take a look at our hours. We're over the hours. Could we really consider this full-day professional development? And working with Shelley and Renee, we really thought getting feedback from the community would probably be a great idea on this. So we did put a survey out regarding half-day, full-day PD. I will say that's probably a good survey turnout of 3,000 participants took it, and it was overwhelming that 71% of our community, staff, and parents would like full-day PD. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so based on all that we've shared thus far with parameters and feedback, 2021 highlights are as follow. We do have a Monday start, but we can do it. We have a Monday start. Last day, we only have to go 1 week into June after the holiday. And then basically, because we now have moved to full days, we just do want to highlight that per the teacher agreement, the last day of each semester is a half day. So that's why you still see that on there. That's not considered PD. That's considered teacher work time, if you will. We held on to that Wednesday before break. That was a big one. And remember, if we would have I guess I should have started with this. I apologize. If we would have taken the approved 2021 shifted it exactly over and left all the days the same, we would have gotten out the second week of June. So we kind of had to look at where can we find some days to really maybe relook so that we only have to go 1 week in June. We discussed briefly the Wednesday of Thanksgiving, and we moved right on because we knew that as a community that was just something we were going to hold dear. But the winter break, for example, we did have some days out earlier than that. And so now, it's not going to start till the 23rd. We're going to go to school on 21 and 22. And then spring break is the 4th week of March, you see there. And actually that was already set to go in the existing 2021, but the Ed Plus folks, all the districts did get together, and that has kind of been a commitment that the St. Louis area has talked about, is it would be nice for all of the school districts to be on the same. So hopefully we'll all stay aligned, and you'll see that we align the same for 21, 22. And then because of our full day, we do have 176 student attendance days. Actually gained a little bit of hours by not all the half days, even though they're now full, but it did reduce us to the actual 176. But again, we have to be cautious. We're no longer held to days. It's now the 1044 hours. So that's our 2021. And you'll notice 21, 22 is literally just the same parameters with obviously different dates. So instead of August 24th, it's Monday the 23rd, et cetera. Thursday in 2022 is June 2nd, et cetera. But it literally follows the same pattern. We go on Wednesday. December 23rd is our first day off. 4th week in March is spring break, and the same number of students days because we put 4 full day PD in 21, 22. So those are just kind of the highlights to both calendars, but again, they definitely mirror one another.
So you have the calendars attached to this item, but we do have some further considerations. You probably, if you flipped it over and really read it with a fine-tooth comb, you probably noticed that we have TBD, to be determined, for late start high school, and TBD, to be determined, for half-day final exams. We're going to continue to look at that. We thought it was really important to bring the calendars forward so the community knew when the start date was, when the end date was, when the breaks were, but we're going to dig deeper into, and you can see up there, the PDC committee is going to be looking at those full days off for students so that staff can have professional learning. I know it says teachers there, but I noticed it as I was preparing that it's really for staff to have professional learning, which will be a wonderful thing for our Rockwood staff. There'll be a combination of district and school professional development. It just depends on, and we're still going to work out what the high school PLC and the high school late starts would work out. And then, as you guys know, I think at the last board meeting, reviewed the approval of the policy 6450, which is the final exams. So RLC is working on a final exam process and really examining our processes as a district. So what's likely to happen, remember these calendars are not approved tonight. They're approved at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. And we will bring back, I think in the spring, those possible late starts for high school and possible final exams, depending on whatever we go forward.
All right, so questions for us?
So for 2021, when do you foresee the final exams being done at the end of the year?
We're still working on it.
Because, I mean, obviously the problem would be Memorial Day is the 31st, and then the 1st, 2nd, and then a half day on Thursday the 3rd, probably. Aren't we afraid that a lot of kids are going to skip the last 2.5 days of school?
Sure hope not.
Lots
of instruction and end of the year, not only projects for wrapping up curriculum and grading, but just the celebrations. So
the proposal on the table is not to take that traditional 2-hour final at the end of the semester, but to look at alternative ways to assess kids all the way along. So I think you're going to see more of that happening throughout the semester, and not that big test at the end that's worth 20% of their grade. That's the direction that we're headed. I meet with the curriculum team tomorrow morning to talk about the logistics of that, and we are hoping to have that all squared away by March, because we're going to take an approach of looking at each course across the district. So all the teachers that teach Algebra 1 will get together with the math coordinator, and they'll talk about how they want to assess their kids and make that decision together.
Yeah, I've lived through both of those where the semester ends before the holidays and you take finals before Memorial Day. Memorial Day. What would happen is that worked out fine. But then we've also had where finals were after the holiday, but under that it was the first 3 days back, and that was terrible because kids would be thinking the whole holiday about their finals and they didn't enjoy the holidays as much. So I think by going to the 13th and 14th, that gives them 2 weeks to prepare for it. I think that's a plus if you're going to have to do it, which we do. The other one is at the end of the year, parents start planning their vacations at Memorial Day, and so they will take Memorial Day and 2 or 3 days after that, and the kids would miss their finals. Well, they still had to come in and take their finals. So it was a makeup final. That's a problem for teachers, but it's okay. I guess the parents felt it was better than not getting a vacation or something like that. So I think with this, I think it'll work out. I don't wish we didn't have to do it, but I think you've come up with a pretty good solution so far to try to work through the process.
I can't. You guys have done a really nice job. You know, we're starting later and we're getting out later, but you know, you're not talking about getting out the middle of June. You know, really.
The shift would have been June 11th if we would have left everything
I mean, I grew
the
up in
same.
Wisconsin. We didn't start school until after Labor Day. And, you know, it was so cold in May, it took till July anyway to get.
Graduated from the Rockwood School District, and we didn't start school till after Labor Day.
There you go. So it's
my
just an
diploma says
adjustment.
June 10th,
Yeah.
1980.
Fine.
It's just an adjustment, but I think
It's adjustment.
you've shown that, you know, I think enough people now have kind of gotten to a good place where they figure, you know, I've heard from elementary teachers, you know, this isn't going to be so bad because if we start like we usually do, it's so hot outside and the kids are inside for indoor recess. And then at the end of the year, it's too cold to go to the pool. So, you know, it's just adjusting. Kids will show up.
Certainly been a surprise gift from the state legislature. I just want to provide kudos to both of you for leading the calendar committee because you've incorporated so many diverse views on what the calendar should be, and just appreciate all of your work and leadership in that endeavor.
One more question, though, before you go. Did I hear you say that in St. Louis County, the districts are going to try to do the same spring break time? Is that?
So Dr. Miles and I went to an Ed Plus meeting where that was one of the discussion points. I don't think everyone committed to it. They just said, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we exchanged teachers between, you know, Parkway and Rockwood and Francis Howell and Rockwood and Parkway and Pattonville, and wouldn't it be nice if we all had this same spring break? And everybody collectively agreed, yeah, that's a good idea. But when local school districts look at their own calendars, things will change.
I'd heard that rumor too, and I said I don't believe it because I can't believe every school district in St. Louis County would agree to anything, much less that.
It wasn't an agreement. It was more of a, this is a
consensus
suggestion.
building about a common time frame for spring break.
I have a question real quick.
Sorry.
No. So, correct me if I'm wrong. So we're 1 to 9 inclement days now. Is that an increase, right?
Okay, remember it's the 10:44 hours. So
Right.
we'll be able to.
Well, you know, it's like everybody always says, oh, well, we got 6 days. I feel like that's just kind of been the
Yeah, I
norm
think
in the
that's just
past
an
couple of years.
urban legend that's
Yeah.
kind of gone around, and people think that. It was on our calendar. That was when we were required to do the 174 and 1044. We haven't been required to do that for 2 years. So
I think the public needs to know that and be aware, like, what that looks like.
Yeah, and I think it's important. It was, I put the facts together that we talked about last board meeting, and I think it was really eye-opening to see how many instructional hours our children do go. And again, it's the Rockwood advantage. We go over the state minimum, as I would hope as a Rockwood parent we would. But there aren't snow days built in. If we have inclement weather days and we're above the 1044, we don't have to make them up. But that was a good notice.
I think that's important for people to know that, yeah.
Job. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything
Thank
else?
you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
All right. So the motion is to postpone the approval of the revised 2021 and 21-22 school calendars until the next board meeting, October 3rd, 2019. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that passes. All right, please pull up the proposed agenda for October 3rd, 2019. How is it October? All right. Any comments about that? All good?
think we need to add a section somewhere in there. I'm not sure where you put it. Time to talk about the Cardinals winning the division and moving on, and the Cubs didn't.
No, the Brewers are only a game behind, so there's still time for the Cardinals
Yeah, I
not to
know,
win the
but
division.
At least we made the playoffs this year.
Well, you didn't make
Future
the last
agenda
four.
presentations and events to attend. Please check the Board of Education Google Calendar for upcoming events in the district. Anything stand out, though? No? All right. Anything else? All right. I adjourn.